Okay, so today for prayer or morning prayer session, we looked at the book of Matthew. We read from chapter 10 and verses 34 to 39. And I'm just going to do a quick recap. Jesus was addressing the disciples and revealing to them the cost of discipleship, the cost involved in following him. And it sounds like a very harsh message. It's very raw, but it is the truth. And it would seem from the surface that Jesus Christ is not coming on the earth to bring peace, as I'm about to read right now in verse 34. Do not suppose I have come to bring peace to the earth. I do not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. And verse 37, anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And I'll stop right there. And so on the surface, it would appear that Jesus Christ's mission was not to bring peace to the earth. In fact, it looks, according to the scripture here, passage here, that his job or goal is to bring a division in a family, or to bring conflict, people to oppose one another. And now, how do we reconcile that with the fact that Jesus Christ is the Prince of Peace? Well, he's a Prince of Peace in regards to the fact that his desire or goal is to reconcile man back to the Father, or to bring man and God in harmony, so that there's no conflict, there's no enmity between God and man. But in the preaching of this message, it's going to cause, as a result of this preaching, it's going to cause a division. It's going to cause men to be offended, men to reject this, because the ways of truth, the ways of the kingdom runs contrary to the ways of the world's value system, the world's philosophies, the world's ideologies does not line up with the kingdom principles, the kingdom way of life. And so when you preach the truth, people are going to naturally reject it, naturally, recoil, because it's challenging them to move from their comfort zone, and they don't want to move from their comfort zone because their value system is based on selfish ambitions and carnal desires and appetites to suit their flesh. Okay, and that runs contrary to the kingdom way. And so even in today's society, where in this political correct environment, you can't even say certain things because people just, they get really angry and upset, and they call you a hater because they don't want to hear what you have to say. They want to hear things that suit their belief system, right? And so we as a church have to be very careful that we don't become so accommodating to these worldly mindsets. And so we have people coming to our church unsaved in our churches, and we want to create an atmosphere that is so conducive for them, that we have, the nice preaching with the organs playing in the background, trying to create a certain type of atmosphere to get them all emotional, and then they say yes to Jesus, but they've never really counted up the cost. If you want to follow Jesus, there is something you have to give up. It's going to cost you something. It's going to cost you your radical commitment and obedience. It's going to cost you your allegiance. And Jesus points out here in this passage that you have to love him more than the things that you value the most, which include your family and your very life. All right? Verse 38, it says, whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. What is your cross? A lot of people say, oh, I'm going through a lot of stuff. I got to carry my cross. No, your cross is not your burdens. It's not your problems that you go through on a day-to-day basis. It's not your issues. That's not how the first century Jewish mind understood that passage. When people were on their way to being crucified, they had to carry their cross. And they're carrying the cross on their way to being executed. Okay, so carrying the cross is symbolic of dying to yourself. Okay, it's not obviously physical, it's internal. Dying to self, dying to your desires for the sake of the kingdom, for the advancement of the kingdom, for the glory of God. And Christ requires our allegiance. He spoke to a young rich ruler who had lots of wealth, but Jesus knew his heart and asked him the hard question. He said, yes, I followed all the laws. And Jesus said, well, go sell your goods to the poor and follow me. Jesus said, I'm requiring your allegiance to me more than your wealth. The young man walked away sorrowfully because he loved his wealth more than he loved the master, even though when he dies, his wealth will be left behind. It's temporary. It's only for a season. We're just pilgrims passing through. It has no eternal value, but he'd rather hold on to something material than to hold on to something of great eternal value. Are you following Jesus because of fish and bread? Are you following him because you love him? Is he a part of your life, or is he your life? These are some things to ponder, to question. Ask yourself the hard question. Thank you for listening once again. Take care. God bless.